All right. There's Josh. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our 113 burn down for today, 11/28. So there's the link to the minutes in the chat. Please add your attendance. And the usual disclaimer, we are being recorded and we'll go onto YouTube shortly after. With that, let's get started. Here's my agenda. Okay. So release timeline, I'm still keeping it at chartreuse, though it seems to tip a little bit more towards green as of this morning, mainly because CI looks green for the first time, or at least for the second time in the entire release. So things are looking good. We also triaged a whole bunch of flakes out of 113 yesterday. We can discuss more in the CI section. And we also cut our RC1 yesterday. Which is great. So with that, it still is tending towards green. I see fix for, yeah. So the main things that we are tracking from yesterday was the fix for the race condition. The fix for the most part of the issue went in yesterday. There's still one known edge case, but as per the comments in the PR, we decided to handle it outside of 113, and there will be a mention about it in the release notes. So if anybody is curious about it, there's a link to the PR in the meeting minutes. And also thanks to Six Storage, they also got the corresponding end-to-end tests in. So both the tests and the fix are in right now, and things and manual tests apparently also passed. So I think we are good in that issue. Code freeze is still slated to lift end of day today, 11/28, unless we discuss the one outstanding scheduler bug that's on hold. And then if there's any CI signal that goes bad later in the day, then we might take a different call. But as of now, we are on track to lift code freeze end of day today. With that, any questions before we go on to discussing the scheduler fix? Okay, I see Bobby there. Hey, Bobby. So this is, so the link to the issue is right there. So there was a critical bug opened yesterday with respect to sorting the scheduler queue so that we avoid starvation on pods because the pods that cannot be scheduled are ahead in the queue. It is a late landing fix in scheduler, and from what we've seen, scheduler fixes generally tend to have impact on scalability and performance runs. So I am at this point pretty concerned to take it at this point in the release. So Bobby, could you give us insight into if this is a new regression that got introduced in 113 versus something that has existed earlier and we found it at right now?
Yeah, so you hear me well, right? Okay. So this existed actually in 111 and 112 as well. This was discovered, I would say, a couple of days ago or 3 days ago, maybe, by some of the folks in Warsaw, Google employees in Warsaw. The problem actually is twofold. One is the case that there is a high priority pod in the cluster that cannot be scheduled, and the cluster is large. When the cluster is large, the issue is that there will be a lot of events causing the scheduler to retry scheduling unschedulable pods. When there is a high priority pod, this high priority pod gets precedence over other existing pods. So that high priority pod can go very, very frequently to the head of the queue and block the scheduling of other pods. This is not too bad because in a lot of clusters, people don't even use priority or don't have this issue much. The other problem, which is actually this fix is about, is the fact that when there are a lot of unschedulable pods, let's say all the pods have the same priority in the cluster, and there are a lot of them which are unschedulable. In the previous, this fix, in the previous case, the scheduler queue was using a slightly different sorting algorithm, basically effectively causing the scheduling queue to act like a LIFO, last in, first out, basically. So that would cause problems actually in the case that these folks in Warsaw tested, when there are a number of these unschedulable pods, those pods get retried very frequently, and a lot of other pods are not even being tried. That's what this fix is about. And in fact, it could happen in any large cluster, I would say, with a lot of existing workloads.
So this is more like it is only in a large cluster with about, say, 1,000 nodes or so. That's what the issue kind of indicated.
In this particular case, I guess the scalability team was able to reproduce the problem with hundreds of nodes as well.
Okay. So do we know if this kind of, because if I remember correctly, most of the average use case for Kubernetes cluster is not really 100 nodes, right? It's more like smaller clusters. So I would just like to understand the severity of, or how widespread this issue could be for us to take a late fix at this point.
This is not going to affect much smaller clusters. I would say maybe like clusters with 50 nodes or smaller won't be affected much by this issue. And in fact, as you know, this has been out since 1.11, and it hasn't caused a lot of trouble so far. But the other thing to note is that 1.11, for example, in case of GKE, is just being rolled out. It hasn't been tested with very large customers yet. So we cannot really rely on the fact that it hasn't caused a lot of issues so far. Maybe it hasn't caused a lot of issues because many of the larger customers are not even using 1.11 or newer. That's why I actually feel we should proactively fix the problem.
Yeah, I understand that criticality, but given that this is like super late, and the next scale tests for us to even get signal on this would be only on 12.1, because the scale runs don't run just once a week, the large scale ones. So that puts us super close to the release date. So in my preferred course of action would be, of course, to cherry pick this into 1.11 and 1.12, but kind of wait for the 1.13.1 like patch release, which if Tim and Alexandra, if either of you are around, we could get a timeline of that. But that way, this will kind of have like a week or two to soak in master and also get a couple of CI runs in place before we can roll it out.
Yeah, that's fine with me. And you know, oftentimes a lot of big users don't use .0 releases.
Yeah.
They wait for like .1, .2. So I think it should generally be fine.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot for dropping in and chiming in on that. Any concerns or suggestions from others on the call? Anything that I'm missing that we should be considering for this?
For this issue or other issues?
For this issue in particular, we'll go through that.
That sounds good.
Okay. Cool. Thanks a lot, Bobby.
Sure.
Resolves it then. I can put a note on that and add Alexandra and Tim to keep track of this for 1.13.1.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, the next was, I see CSI driver compatibility tweak. And
that is me.
Yes.
While we were writing out the release notes, Saad and I realized that there was a slight misunderstanding about how the compatibility fix was done.
Okay.
Great. The short version is that most drivers will simply update to support CSI 1.0. And for them, what we have today, where they would be required to go into the new plugin directory, works fine and works the way we want it to work.
Yeah.
And existing drivers that support CSI 0.3 would be able to stay deployed where they were and continue working, and that works fine. In a case where a super conscientious vendor updated their driver to support both 0.3 and 1.0.
Okay.
The directory restrictions we have in place would require them to move to the new directory, which is not actually what we want. We would want to let this hyper-conscientious vendor who made their plugin super compatible, let it deploy in either directory.
Okay.
And so Saad and I just talked through this, and we would like to fix that issue.
Okay. Do we have a sense of, again, how big the fix is, and also will the current upgrade test catch that scenario or not?
The fix is tiny.
Okay.
It is one line. And yes, the upgrade tests, the upgrade tests are using our sample driver, which we don't even provide a driver that implements both CSI API versions. It's not expected that many vendors will do this at all. It is much more common that they will just switch to the new API version. It's actually quite hard to make a driver that supports both versions.
So how do we even test this out? Is it more manual at this point?
It'll be unit testing on the function that decides whether a driver is allowed in the old directory or not.
Okay. I think I would, then the only thing is, will it regress the other scenarios? I hope not, but.
No.
Okay. Okay, at this point then we can take that, but hopefully it lands soon so that we can have some signals on the upgrade tests.
Yeah.
I know the upgrade that tests from the ones that we actually put the compatibility for, those run their long running tests. So I don't know if we'll get that signal before code freeze, before 5 p.m. today. But at least we'll get some signal from the parallel runs, I hope.
Yeah, and the fix is small enough that if it needs to be picked, if we want to wait for signal and then pick it, that is very doable. It is.
Yeah, I'm only afraid of the tight queue like blowing up and this fix going at the end of the queue, and then for us having to wait for everything else to merge.
Sure.
So I would also be willing to lift freeze either later today or tomorrow until we can get some signal, but get this in first.
Yeah. So the pull request for that will be open imminently.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out on that, and we can tweak code freeze lift accordingly. That said, Cole, it's next up to you, which brings us to the tight queue question. So I was looking at the tide that particular tight queue target, but it doesn't show anything. Is it because it only tracks 113 at this point?
It's because there's nothing that Tide is handling right now. That shows PRs that are currently in a pool, currently ready to merge and are being retested essentially. So if Tide is completely idle, nothing will show up there.
Okay.
I linked the other Velodrome page that has historic results and shows graphs. Specifically, the graph that I linked, you'll see that is very spiky, which is why that other page is empty. Because typically when we get something in the Tide pool, it clears pretty quickly.
Okay. I was just going to go to GitHub and do like a rough, everything that's on 114 that's ready to merge kind of a query.
What do you mean by that? Because we don't have a separate Tide pool for 114 yet.
No, I just wanted to see if the moment we lift code freeze, how many of those are going to show up in Tide? What's going to be the backlog?
Okay, so you're wondering about milestone 114 PRs in the master branch?
Yeah,
okay.
That's waiting to merge. I was just getting a sense of, suppose we have like a critical PR that gets in later and we have to wait to cherry pick it. I just want to see where we'll be.
Yeah, so since none of those are actually mergeable yet, since we haven't changed the requirements, the best way to do that is just a GitHub search.
Yeah, okay. I'll do that. But at this point, for any fix that I'm anticipating, I'm asking folks to get it in before the code freeze. So yeah, but I'll do a GitHub search to give me a better sense.
If you want a search to start with, you can go to the Tide dashboard. If you click on the merge requirements section, there's links to the GitHub searches there.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. And other than that, yeah, I saw your code to PR is ready. I'll ping you once we know better by the end of the day today.
Okay.
That brings us to CI. Josh?
Technically green, but nervous. As in, we don't have any out-and-out test fails, but we have a lot of unresolved flakes.
Mm-hmm.
The sort of chief ones by area are, there's a whole set of flakes that belong to storage, and apparently a bunch of those also belong to Node on their investigation of them, because a lot of them are apparently runtime issues. Some of those should theoretically have been resolved by PRs that merged yesterday and last night. We won't know for 12, 16 hours or so whether or not that's actually the case. And since they're all flakes, we really won't know for several days until that's the case. The other ones, many of these flakes individually fall into the category of, hey, this happens roughly once a week, and it's going to be really hard to figure out what's happening. Which makes none of them individually significant. The problem is that there's something like 20 different flakes that fall into that category. Then there's a few miscellaneous ones, like the network affinity flake that I'm still waiting for SIG Network to say whether or not something's newly broken for 113 on there.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's just a sort of, worry for releasing on time is the GCE provisioning flake has never been really investigated, let alone resolved. And as a result, that tends to crop up every 2 to 3 weeks, and suddenly all of our GCE upgrade downgrade tests fail.
Okay, this is the one pinged in the morning. Could you add it to the notes, maybe?
Yeah, let me add that to the notes. Sorry, there's a whole lot of issues.
Yeah.
I was in the process of filing new one just seconds ago.
Okay.
Or actually, not a new one, but a returning one just seconds ago. Okay.
Yeah, I can probably ping some folks just to get some traction in that, but is this the DC network? Is this a load balancing one or?
The actual the test failure message shows up in several different areas, but when you actually dig into the test logs, what's clearly apparent is that the network setup between the pods used in the test just doesn't happen.
Okay.
And like, we're clear that it is a test problem, as in it doesn't reveal anything wrong with Kubernetes itself.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that if it happens to strike 3 days before the release, a whole bunch of tests will go red, and we can't see anything other than this particular problem because the tests all quit after like 20 minutes.
Okay. Did it hit that? Did we run into this issue yesterday? Because I did see a bunch of downgrade failures, and one of the upgrade.
No, the downgrade failures are due to other causes, including one to file.
Okay.
I think they are. There's some others that hit. Oh wait, no, we did get one of these yesterday on.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Let me see.
Exactly. Sometimes it's just one job, and occasionally it's been 4 or 5 different jobs at once.
Okay. Does it also hit the parallel downgrade? If so, at least we'll get some earlier signals. We'll get more frequent signals if it hits us on the day of the release. Versus if it only happens in the long serial running jobs, then.
I don't, as far as I can tell, that has at one time or another hit all of the upgrade and downgrade tests, or any of them. it has definitely hit some of the parallel ones as well.
Okay.
I don't think it actually. I don't think it actually is, and it's also hit some of the scalability tests. So I think the only dependency is that the test job needs to involve a lot of pods. And when that's the case, this can strike.
Okay, I'll see if I can get somebody from GCP to at least get some ownership on this and help us, but I don't think this is in scope for 113 at all at this point.
No, this has been a problem for as long as we have history. It's just, like I said, it's one of those list of things of, hey, this could strike on Monday.
Yep.
And then we'd have to postpone because we wouldn't be able, if it hit 4 or 5 tests at once, we'd have to postpone because we wouldn't be able to see whether or not there were any problems being masked by this kind of failure.
Mm-hmm. I'm just hoping if we lift code trees and kind of block 113 branch out, we'll at least have like 4 to 5 days of clean CI there without anything merging. Yeah. So even if it hits on Monday, historically, we can check the signals in the previous days to see if it's a test issue or not.
Okay.
But thanks for bringing that.
So as soon as we lift code freeze, it's my plan to stop tracking SIG release master blocking.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get a whole, we're going to get a whole queue of things that have been pending for a week and are not necessarily tested in combination with each other. Mm-hmm. So I expect SIG release master blocking to go. Although it didn't happen last cycle, but I expect it to go extremely red this cycle.
Yeah. The upgrade one we'd have no control over anyway. So. Okay. Cool. Anything else?
No, that's about it. The storage has been working hard on resolving a bunch of their sort of mostly long-standing flakes. Like I said in the comments, the goal here is not to address any specific flake, but to simply reduce the number of them so that we don't have them striking on every run.
Yep.
Which it looks like they've done, but it's going to be hard to tell whether that's been successful for a couple of days.
Yeah, Michelle is here. Michelle, I know you guys are hard at work. Is there anything else you want to add? But at this point, I think we kind of moved all of this out of 113.
Yeah. So basically, I think the most frequent recurring flakes, which were the new CSI ones, we should be hopefully resolving them. We did see the test flake this morning, and both Saad and I took a look at 2 different jobs where it flaked, and we concluded that the test or kubelet is doing the right thing and it's behaving correctly, but for some reason the test isn't able to detect it. So at this point, it looks like there might be a problem in the test itself that we can look into fixing there. And then regarding all the other flakes we had, I took a look at a lot of the flakes, and I think each of those flakes ended up being like a different issue. But I think, so I opened up issues for all of them, and we can look into to fixing them. But I think for like going forward for 114, we'll probably start tackling we'll try to figure out all the most frequent failing jobs and try to tackle them in order of frequency.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks once again for all your effort here. With that said, remaining 4 minutes, we can go over the other stuff. Nico is offline today, but we both, and then I'm on top of the open issues and the at this point. He would update the status, burn down status later when he's online. Docs, Tim?
So we're making good progress actually. We've got 8 PRs that we want to merge, and 4 of them are LGTM, and the others are pretty close to approval. So it's looking good for getting everything done today, tomorrow, hopefully.
Okay. Could you please link to those 8 PRs, or is it the same spreadsheet that is up?
No, it's a different spreadsheet. I can update that spreadsheet, or I'll just create a link to the
PRs? Yes.
the PRs. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, let me know if you need any follow up. Yeah, I know we are past the merge deadline, but since these look like stragglers, I think we can get them in. Cool. Release notes, Mike.
Hey y'all, how's it going?
Hey.
Release notes are going pretty well. Spent a bunch of time yesterday and today kind of organizing the notes that were said to be from multiple SIGs into the actual SIG that produced them, which kind of makes the document a little more succinct, and working with especially Jordan Liggett to organize things, and he's been super helpful as well. So on the plan, on the docket, is really copy edit the notes as much as possible, and myself and all the shadows are working on that. And then we have to copy the final set of known issues from the issue into the document, because there's some new ones that you called out, and those are on the issue there, so we got to copy those in. And then there are 3 SIGs that haven't been responsive about their major themes, and that's autoscaling, GCP, and SIG-Node. Reached out to them in channel. We'll probably just pull them, if nothing. A bunch of SIGs have been like, yeah, no major themes, but we'll see.
Okay. I can try to follow up with these folks as well, just to get more traction on this.
Yeah, it seems like SIG autoscaling mostly works in another repository, and they did put in a release note like yesterday for bumping the version of the artifact dependency. And GCP doesn't really, SIG GCP doesn't have that many like Kubernetes release nodey major themes things, but SIG Node had kind of a few, so we'll see. And then once all that's done, really the plan is just to copy the doc into KK and the changelog file, and hopefully, I was hoping to do that tomorrow. So I'll ideally need some tag help on that.
Okay. This is for so tagging what? I'm sorry.
So I'm gonna put up a PR.
To tag the labels to get things in.
Right.
Okay. Is this? Oh, I'm getting kicked out. Okay, that sounds good. Just one I'll follow up with you offline, Mike, about this. And just one quick question. I'm planning to move the release meeting to 9:30 tomorrow to accommodate for the community meeting. Can the leads make it? Is that fine by everybody? Okay. And I'll move it. And thanks a lot, guys. Have a good rest of your day today.